And there it is. We're live. Hi,
Hey, there
Andre.
we go. What's happening, Anthony? How you doing?
Good, good. I'm happy to be here with you today. It's something I've been looking forward to since we met. I was about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something
Indeed,
like that.
indeed.
Something like that. Let's start off with just like some minor introductions. Andre, if you wouldn't mind, could you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Andre Davis. I am the founder of Akashic Living, which is a meditation and personal development company. You can actually check more about us on akashicliving.com. My background is in meditation, as I'm a certified meditation instructor with Deepak Chopra's organization, in addition to just a lifelong seeker, right? A type of person that will show up at a ayahuasca ceremony or a meditation retreat, always on the path of exploring how I can live a more expansive and fulfilling life. And my passion is helping other people tap into that same frequency, that same desire to be more aligned, if you will, with their purpose and with the sound or the texture of their soul, as you would say. So, Anthony, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. It's a pleasure and an honor to meet you. And I look forward to a really dope conversation with you, my brother.
Same, same. I'm looking forward to it. For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Anthony. Also go by Antonio Corianti, which translates into Anthony Golden Sunshine. I'm pretty much what I do is I'm a full-time holistic transformation specialist. I work with people all over the world to help them become happy, healthy, and strong. Try to help them become their greatest possible versions. I go deep into spiritual teaching. Along with that, I'm also a classically trained shamanic priest of the Qatari lineage of the Pacacuna tradition of Peru. So this means I'm a nature mystic, and that doesn't mean that I only like love nature, trees and flowers and birds. I do. I see everything as one living nature. Everything is alive. I'm very driven in helping others to create and cultivate new ways of being. My wife and I have created a organization called the Positive Pineapple, which we began in 2019. And in that time, up until now, we've reached about 75,000 people in 48 countries, and that's growing every day, helping people learn things. One of the primary things I teach in my way of medicine is breath work. I am a master breathwork facilitator, and I use that as a cornerstone of healing for the mind, body, and spirit. And Andre, I'm super happy to be here with you. I'm already excited. We got a lot of, I liked how before the show, we become aware that, hey, we both kind of have like our spiritual altar around us and we're both like in a jungle. So how cool is that? I love
Already
plants.
connected.
Your plants are real though, I think. Mine's a backdrop, but I
That's all.
love plants. I absolutely love trees and plants and stuff like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a part of us. That's a part of us. They're like our
Mhm.
lungs. That's beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful,
Mhm.
indeed.
We
So it's
trade. So, did you want to let's discuss a little bit about healing with nature? That
yeah.
was something like we kind of touched on it. We could talk about, and if you want to start off there, I would love to hear some of your viewpoints and insights about healing with nature.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for me, healing with nature is just a vital component of my daily spiritual practice, right? Whether it's outside doing qigong, right, doing breath work, sitting by the river, and just being in a natural state of being, right? Just observing nature, and just being a part of it. Harmonizing your frequency with it. So everybody may be familiar with the Schumann resonance, with this Earth's natural vibration. And so when you sit outside, and I guess it's like biomimicry, if you will, right? Your biorhythms begin to become in harmony with nature, and things like stress and anxiety, they begin to dissolve, and then you move into just a natural state of being. So for me, healing in nature, it's everything. It's everything. It's coming back to that source, coming back and remembering our natural state of being. And you can explore that from just a simple walk, taking a
Mhm.
walk in the morning, or hiking, or whatever it is. Just sitting in the park and just enjoying your lunch outside, and then just watching the trees and the birds, and just being in harmony with nature, and allowing those stressors and concerns and all those things to dissolve and allow you to just be present, to be present. But it's interesting when we connected. The fact that you're a nature shaman, to me, opened up a whole new portal of conversation, if you will, because
Mm.
your training, your gifts are rooted in understanding nature to an extent that where a lot of us live disconnected from the understanding of how nature helps us heal, some of that technical and that nuanced understanding. So I'm interested in hearing from you, how you use nature to help people to heal and to come into remembrance of their natural state, and what that journey was like for you. Because I always say heal people, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an underlining story with that as well. So interested in hearing that from
Yeah, there is. There's actually, I could sit here for a long time and tell you about all the story about how I got here, about how I became, a nature priest. It wasn't something I looked to happen. It wasn't. It kind of found me. Is
you.
kind of what happened. So I'll just kind of like streamline a little bit. I ended up through living kind of just like an average life, doing the same things that everybody else tries to do, essentially trying to live the American dream, get out there, work as hard as you can, make as much money as you can, because the way I was trained in my upbringing was, Anthony, if you have a lot of money, you're going to be happy, is
Hmm.
what my father kind of told me. And I think that had a lot to do because my father didn't have any money. So I kind of grew up in a really kind of restricted kind of mindset, or a lack mindset, which kind of drove me really hard. And I tried so hard and I did so well, and I accomplished all those things. But what I found at the end of that rope was there was no happiness there, because the happiness isn't in the material things. It's not in the
That's right.
material world. And I didn't grow up in any sort of like spiritual sort of way around other people to teach me these things. So I didn't really have any awareness really much about nature up until that point. I always kind of had a feeling about it, but it
Hmm.
never was something I could really understand or bring into my actual awareness about. But what happened is through that kind of way of living, that ended up bringing me into a very deep form of illness, and in actually coming up with 13 different symptoms that are deemed incurable by our modern allopathic medical care system. So
Hmm.
that drove me into a very deep form of depression and anxiety. And that's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me,
That's right.
because by that happening, that allowed something in me to begin to open, my true
Hmm.
nature, my true being. And as that started to kind of open, I started to have new awarenesses. My consciousness began to expand very quickly once I began to realize that my perception was informing my reality.
Hmm.
Once I became aware, and it wasn't just something that happened on its own. This came through some spiritual communication that was happening with me, stuff I didn't really understand, because I didn't grow up in a place where there were shamans, seers, and sages for me to talk to about my experience. And my spiritual experience began very young, somewhere around age 3. I started to be able to communicate with spirits,
Hmm.
but I kind of was steered away from that, mostly by the fear of my mother. She kind of was like into Christian mindset, and for her, those kinds of things seemed evil or bad. So she kind of indoctrinated me to believe that. She's just doing the best she could to protect me, and I didn't know. So I don't look at anything that's happened as something that wasn't supposed to happen. I believe everything that happens has to happen to get me here, and it did. So that kind of took me into there's a lot of other stuff that happened. And next thing you know, I ended up in this apprenticeship to become a shamanic priest. And it was at first, I never really experienced anything like it. But just as I started going into it, I started to have the remembering. And that's what they call it in our tradition, the great remembering. I started to remember all these things that already were innately alive inside of me, and is innately alive inside all of us.
Hmm.
And then I was kind of trained and taught through those things, not just my human teachers, but my spirit guides also were taking me into things, having me get out in the woods. That
Hmm.
was kind of like my first real thing. And as I was healing, one of my primary issues was severe lung disease. I would be out there. I just was learning about how to breathe and use my breath work properly. And I was getting out into the woods and having time out there, just kind of how you were saying, just be outside. I didn't really have an awareness yet of anything too much, but I started to really walk and breathe. I'd be out there with my dog, and I just started to feel better and better and better. And I just started to heal. My body started to heal all of my symptoms. So pretty much there was a day that was really bad where I was questioning if I should continue. 8 months later, I recovered to basically where I am now, which I would say I'm pretty much around the most healthy version of me I've ever been at age 47. So I feel pretty good. I'm close to half a century-year old, but you could never tell me that. I feel like I'm in my late 20s if I had to guess, looking at it that way. But nature is such a very beautiful and powerful force for us to become connected with. And what it really takes is that space to create consciousness, to create that conscious awareness of nature. So there's plenty of people that you can put them outside and you can put them on a park bench, but most of the time what they're going to do is they're going to sit there and they're going to think. They may be overtaken by the beauty of the nature for a short period of time, but the incessant thought begins again. So I'd say the most important thing for most humans to learn, and why I teach it and what's such a big deal to me, is breathing. There's a term they use, breath work. That's kind of a modernized idea. There's as many forms of breathing as there are diets. You can explore that. And that's what I always try to get people to do, is first learning how to use your diaphragm. And the primary reason is using your diaphragm turns on parts of your nervous system that allow you to make interactive connections with the nature around you. You can't really become aware of it until you can shift your brainwave rate. And so that's something that, as I go along my journey, and I'm also a shamanic teacher, I teach and train other shamans. I train other people how to connect with nature beings and frequencies of life. That's something that's really kind of a cornerstone for most human beings, because if you don't know how to breathe, you have no control over your mind. That's really what it comes down to. And that's what I say is the breath is the captain of the mind. Once you gain control of your breathing, wow, you can do a lot more stuff than you ever could before, particularly handling stress. Because we live in a world where, we've kind of been taught like stress is this bad thing. I disagree. We're meant to create stress, but what we're not meant to do is hold on to it. And this is kind of where the path of the nature mystic becomes really beautiful, because what we're train ourselves and we train others to do is learn how to process energy, how to process information, because that's something none of us are taught from our, unless we're really lucky, we're not taught that kind of thing.
How to process information. That's beautiful. It reminds me of there's a scripture going back into the Bible. It says, be you transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? Renewing your mind, remembering how to come back to a natural state of being, right? For me in meditation, just breathing, the breathing aspect of it, having, whether if you're using a mantra or not, it's the following your breath, right? You can use that as just a guide to follow your breath, follow your breathing. Typically when you're stressed out, your breathing gets real shallow and quick. If you can just tap into a space, just where you just breathe and relax, just allow it just to flow naturally. I think that allows us to, to reduce the stress and the anxiety, but taking care of your nervous system, as you were alluding to, critical.
Big time. Yeah, big time. Breathing, because, we've probably been told that when we were children. I know I heard that when I was a kid, like breathing's important and this and that. I never really understood that. I didn't understand that, like just how, as you were pointing out, being in a sympathetic dominant state, which most humans are most of the time. And we think that's normal. That's been normalized to kind of be in that ready. I'm always ready and I'm ahead of the game kind of state. What that does is, just as you were pointing out, you have low respiration. You're breathing high in the chest, typically through the mouth, or holding your breath. And how we can kind of reset that is, and the thing we've been heard before, take a deep breath. Well, the thing that is missing from that advice is elongate your exhale. Because elongate your exhale is of the most importance, because that long exhale tells your nervous system that I'm safe.
Yep, that's it.
So it's that long. And if you train that repeatedly, all it will take you is just a couple breaths to be able to shift your frequency, because it's neural adaptation is what's happening there. It's an adaptation that happens through kind of practice. And then that kind of steps us, you get control of your breath. And one of the primary things that I teach people, and what I've been taught about processing energy, is being able to make imaginary connections. Okay. That's the thing that most of us don't understand, is that our imagination is one of the most powerful aspects of our being, with the other most powerful aspect being our emotion. So these are two things that we're cut off from mostly in this part of the world. in many parts of the world is our imagination, because we've been
Correct.
told like it's just your imagination, and our emotion, especially as men. I know I was taught as a young man, like, if Billy got hurt on the playground and cried, we beat him up. We didn't
Absolutely.
hey, we didn't surround Billy and tell Billy that he's safe, and
Hmm.
they're caring for him, because that's not how we were taught to be. We were taught, be tough, man. That's kind of how
Correct.
it is. But it's learning how to a big key is learning how to use your mind and your intention. And my teacher likes to call it hallucination. He has no
Mm,
problem saying that word. You want to get good at communicating with spirit, you got to get better at being able to hallucinate. And I
absolutely.
giggle when he says that, because most people hear that like, what do you mean? Like, it means using your mind's eye and your disciplined imagination to create connection into the quantum space around you. So
Absolutely.
like, so that primary connection with nature starts at learning how to connect your root or your tailbone into the earth. That's our
Mm,
primary first step in our tradition, is making good friends with Pachamama, with Mother Earth,
mm,
making a close connection with her, allowing your tailbone. I like to take everything from my navel down, turn it into root systems, plug it into the planet. And then after that, it's calling in your highest power. And that's the thing about our form of shamanism. We don't really tell you what your highest power is supposed to be, because that's individual to each of us, whatever
mm,
that picture or idea is, because the picture is not what matters. It's the frequency and vibration, calling in the vibration of whatever you believe is the highest power, whatever that is for you. And it's different for everybody, and being able to draw that energy and pull it through you in a vertical column through your body, feeding it into the earth. And now what you're doing is you're learning how to transfer energy. You're
mhm,
taking all of we call it hucha in our tradition. That means
mm.
heavy energy or condensed light. We don't call it negative or positive, really, because we don't have a dual kind of understanding in the
Correct.
medicine way. We just see energy. So taking our condensed light, our pain, our anger, our fear, our disease, our worry, whatever heavy energy that might be, and what you're
Mhm,
doing is you're allowing it to pass through you and grounding it into the earth. And by giving it to the earth, you're also doing a beautiful service by giving her this condensed light, which she composts and mulches, takes into her womb and brings it back into the light of the surface, back into life of what we need here. So what's happening? You're becoming the circuit of life, the kiss between the creative father and the creative mother. And that's really where nature really starts to become beautiful for us, is when we become immersed and become that central circuit of light.
mm. You're like a tree. In many
Yeah.
respects, you're mimicking a tree, right? I mean, for
Yes.
energetically, right? With your
Yes.
roots being grounded, then
Yep.
being receptive to, higher frequencies of light. It's amazing, and you're giving it back. You're
Mhm.
giving it back. I remember, I love how you say you have to use, your imagination and hallucinate, right? I think that's a critical part of meditation in terms of, where you have these higher states of consciousness where you're no longer identifying who you are by your five senses, right? By your body and the different faculties of your sensorium. So, in meditation, you open yourself up to really understand and become aware of your true existence, of being pure awareness. And what's interesting is that bleeds into the rest of your life, right? And until you have a fuller perspective of life. So when I'm out of a meditative state and say I'm in nature, still hearing that intuition, right? Your ear is now attuned to hearing those still small voices in nature. I remember there was a tree. I was at the park. It was a cherry blossom tree. But what's interesting about the cherry blossom tree, when I saw it, it reminded me of my grandmother. Now, my grandmother's transitioned 20 plus years ago. But when I saw the tree, and the same feeling that I got when my grandmother would give me a hug was there. And I was like, now, how is that even possible? So then I just sat there and I listened to it. And then I started to feel it even stronger. And then the tree said she gives her love freely because it was freely given to her. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. It was a cherry blossom tree and the leaves were blowing away. So I took a picture of the tree and I took it to my dad. And this is his mother that had passed. And I said, Dad, does this tree remind you of anybody? He was like, oh my goodness. It reminds me of my mom. And it was amazing how you can understand how you commune with nature when you open up your imagination, when you open up your consciousness, and you get to see the oneness of life in everything, in everyone and everything. There's no separation, but I think it's the consolidation or the density of thought when we identify with just our physical body that puts veils between us and our oneness with all of life. So being able to open up our imagination is so beautiful, but yet critical, and really tapping into that healing, but also that remembrance.
Mhm.
That remembrance.
And manifestation. So
Yes,
to be effective at manifesting, you have to have the ability to visualize what it is you want, what it
that
is
part.
that needs to be there, because it's through that visualization that you're able to pick up on the frequency. That's something I do a lot of teaching around, is manifestation, how to, because healing on a big level is manifestation. Like, I would explain it as, you're not changing this body, or you're not changing this world, you're changing your frequency in the quantum space in which that you are observing. That's
Correct.
kind of more how my understanding and how I would explain it is, in that kind of way. But it's very important, and that's something a lot of people don't realize. I've had people come to me as students, and I'll ask them to use their mind's eye and visualize. Say, I can't do that. I'm like, okay, close your eyes. Can you picture an apple? They say, yeah. I'm like, well, you just did it.
That's it.
Oh, I had some
That's
other
it.
expectation how it is. Or I have people that have been on spiritual journeys for a long period of time, and they tell me, well, I can sense and I can feel certain things, but I can't like see it. And I was like, well, you're trying to see it with these eyes. That's kind of what's happening. You want to see it with the mind's eye, because then it's always there. It's already there. That's also how I was trained by another shaman. I said the same thing. I was like, well, I can see, sense, smell. Like, I have a vast awareness of energy that's around
Hmm.
me, but I can't see it. And he's like, oh yeah, you can, because I can see you seeing it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then so we had this brief conversation where he helped me to understand that my imagination, it happened really quickly, like very quickly. Oh, your imagination's a tool. It's not something that's not unreal. And I was like, that makes a lot more sense now. And then you can
Hmm.
have confidence in those things, taking your time to create mental pictures that actually help you, because that's one of the greatest things we can do. If you want to become the greatest form of Andre, you want to spend time every day visualizing him. What does he look like? What does he do? How does he act? Where does he go? What's happening? Taking all that information and transferring that. So that's your imagination. Or for some people, they may have like spiritual communications or touching or tapping that come to them. That's
Hmm.
one form of information that you can turn into the next form of information by allowing yourself to feel the vision. You're feeling the vision. And that's something that takes some time. That's intuitive awareness that all of us, we're on that path of ascension where that's slowly growing and becoming more and more profound. Because I always like to sit, like, I'll get caught up in just being in the now. And then sometimes I would like take a little venture backwards, like, wow, look where I came from. That's
Hmm.
amazing. That's so
Hmm.
amazing. It's always fun to look back, like who we were before, or where it started and where it is now. And then, so that also helps for me to imagine where can it go,
Oh
which is
yeah,
far beyond any part of my imagination, of course.
yeah, and honor that person who you used to be for having the courage,
Mhm.
to to embrace the transformation. That was a beautiful, that's a beautiful lesson. It's funny, I love how you say how you're not necessarily in the condition of it all, right? You're using your imagination to see the truth of things, right? So not necessarily confined by the five senses. And that's what I use for prayer, right? So when praying for someone to have a realization of something, right? It's funny, my, I guess, initiation in that process came through a lucid dream. I was literally one night. I tell my wife every time we go to bed, I'm like, all right, well, you better buckle up because I'm about to leave here. There's a lot of astral travel, a lot of travel in my sleeping state. And so one night, my ancestors, they came around the bed and they were like, come with me. I was like, okay, cool, let's go. So leave my body, have this outer body experience. And they take me to a place where I get to see nothing but light energy. My energy is light energy. Everything around me is light energy. The trees, the rivers, the oceans, the mountains, everything is light energy. There's no separation. And everything in this natural state is perfect, whole, and complete. And it's pure love. And that's how it's vibrating. And so that experience allowed me in my mind's eye to see everything in its true state. And so now when I come back and pray and someone has a request, I pray from that state of there's no, so if someone has it, for example, I had someone ask me to pray that they manifest more money. And they were overseas and they were down to like, I think it's like their last $800 and they didn't know exactly how to manifest more money. And so I said a prayer for them. I think it was on a Friday, and I do a weekly prayer every Monday, but this particular time it was on a Friday. Said the prayer Friday. The following, I think Monday or Tuesday, she reaches out to me on WhatsApp. It's like, Andre, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. I got a check for $5,000 over the weekend. And then someone sent another check for $3,000 and another one. And she's just rattling off all of these different, events of money coming in. And I say all that because the prayer came not from a place of scarcity or lack, but just seeing her in her true state, the way that I saw myself, the way that I saw my ancestors, the way that I saw this world in the state of abundance, in the state of prosperity. And from there, using my word to help her have a realization of who she truly is. And it was amazing how it became so immediate. And I credit her for having an open heart to be able to receive that. But, the power of being able to pray, but also the power to really see things as they truly are, really accelerates and amplifies our ability to manifest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the way of the shaman. I mean, to be able to bring in potential impossibilities for others. It's like kind of being like a map holder or a way shower.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're looking at, what you're creating in that form of imagination, you're tapping into potential outcomes. And if you can tap into this potential outcome and bring it here, this begins to create a higher frequency, and you can share that with people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you're familiar with human design. There's something called human design that's really, really intense. I actually would recommend check it out sometime. You can go on. It's like a calculator that it starts off with like online, and you just tap in some information. It's based in several different disciplines, including astrology and numerology and some other things. But in my experience so far, kind of messing with it in the last couple of years, the accuracy is amazing. It's amazing accuracy. So it kind of breaks people into types. There's like certain types of people, breaks them into several different kinds of types, like the most common being generators. People who generate, they're the people who are basically creating the world around them all the time. And then there's manifestors, people who have the ability to really easily manifest by pulling in energy and creating in a certain way. There's manifesting generators, which is like a mix between manifestor and generator. And then there's reflector, which are really rare. 1% of the population are reflectors. These are people that, for people like me, which I'm a projector. Projectors are commonly spiritual teachers and things like that, people who project energy into the world. So that's kind of what you're doing there. I don't know if you're a projector, but that's what you just explained in language, was a way that you've projected energy into the realm around you. Because that woman isn't, she's you. That's it. That's who she is. You're just feeding information into another cell in the system. And by doing, we can do that for each other all over the place. And that's why like community, spiritual community is so, so important. And why a lot of the work that Mary, my wife, and I do is with community groups here in our local area, but also online community groups of people all over the world, because energy doesn't know time or distance. It doesn't know. That's something we've made up. And what we're able to do, and this kind of goes into alignment a little bit with like some of the shamanic practices. The shamanic practice explains essentially that we're part of a living grid system of energy called the Sikinan is the word they use. I kind of just call it the living nervous system. Everything's a nervous system. Everything's kind of connected. And the more we use these certain pathways and patterns, just like your brain, it becomes more acute in how it works. So when you get a group of people together to do a meditation, which also to me is a form of prayer, like my ideas of prayer aren't like how it started off as closing my heart and telling God what I need. I'm much more passive in my prayer. I'm open to be one and in back and forth communication with my higher self or the higher power. But when we come together in groups, that magnifies, and that's been spoken about in scripture as well, about prayer. When you bring two or more people together, you're beginning to compound its ability, its flow of light. Because that's really what my form of shamanism that I'm part of and what I teach is, technically it's a form of light technology. We've known, ancients have always known everything is light. And that's basically how we teach. There's different, the cool part is like here, like in the United States, we have English and we only have certain words for, we say like energy, light, that's it. Over
The
there, there's
nuance.
Kausai, Kanchai, Kamaska. There's many different forms, Munai. There's many
Mm,
different forms of light that represent different frequencies of consciousness. Because
wow.
when I say come into a flow of energy, I don't necessarily mean you're in a flow of energy as much as I'm saying you're shifting your frequency of consciousness. A
State.
new version of you is now rising into that space of consciousness.
Mm, that's powerful. The nuances of it, right? How language, if you have to have the language for it really to understand it,
Yes.
it helps a lot. It helps a lot. It's funny as you were saying. I was thinking of another example I want to share because you talked about community, and I always say we grow faster in community,
Mhm.
and those insights that one person gets becomes available to everybody else, like the 100th monkey experiment, right? Where you
Right.
get that morphic resonance, and so whoever has availability to that, who's open to try something new, it's there for them to receive. And so I remember a time, this is my homegirl, Veronica. We're part of a Course in Miracles community. For the last 2 years, we've been doing this A Course in Miracles meeting every week. And she and I help co-facilitate it. And she's building a fantastic retreat down in Costa Rica. It's called Ater Tumti. It's going to be fantastic. But
Awesome.
she, first of all, she's an amazing being,
Mhm.
absolutely amazing being. She has a fantastic story. It's called, actually, she has a book. I'll think of the name of it, but she's building this retreat in Costa Rica. And she bought a mountain overlooking the sea, and she's drilling, as people there drilling, looking for water. And I think every time they drill, it's like $30,000. And I think
Mm.
they drilled maybe like four different times, different locations, but they can't find water. Now, mind you, the mountain is overlooking the sea, so there's water around there.
Mhm.
And so we do our weekly prayer, and she says, Andre, can you just say a prayer for me? That the developers are having a hard time finding water in this mountain, and we can either dig again in a new location or dig deeper. And I was like, absolutely. I mean, this is nature. There's an abundance of everything. So when she's asking me to pray, mind you, she's in Sedona. And so the energy and we're on Zoom. So I'm picking up the energy, not just from Sedona and her background, but also just the understanding that there is no lack in nature. There is no lack. And so she asked me to pray. And of course, we say a prayer. I believe that was on a Monday. Later that week, she texted me on WhatsApp. She's like, Andre, the developers reached out and they said, we have so much water now. We have
Awesome.
so much water that they can, they have enough water for the entire community. And I just started laughing. Did my mic go out?
It kind of muffled for a second.
Yeah. I just started
Alien.
laughing.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
Uh-huh. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's,
it was hilarious. Just the
yay, water.
realization of it. Yeah, like but the realization of it when it happens, it's a beautiful thing. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
It improves your faith. It really boosts your faith when you see the result. The result can really bring that faith. I was going to ask you this.
Mhm.
Would you mind talking a little bit because you mentioned about A Course in Miracles. I'm pretty familiar with it and everything, but maybe for the viewers, for people who aren't familiar with Course in Miracles, could you kind of give us maybe like a little tutorial or some ideas about what that is? If you can get your mic straightened out. Technology.
I You gotta love it. I apologize about that. You were asking me a question?
Yeah. So what I was going to ask you about is you were talking about A Course in Miracles, and you have A Course in Miracles. You're in a group. I'm familiar with Course in Miracles. What I used to do is I have a library. It's like 3 miles away from here,
Mhm.
and what I was doing when I was recovering from lung disease, I used to speed walk from here to the library, and I'd sit there and
Mhm.
I'd read the Course in Miracles for just like 30 minutes at a time. When I would go in there and just pick up the information and leave again. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great wisdom transmission. There's so
Absolutely.
many great wisdom transmissions. I think this one's a very potent one. So if you wouldn't mind, for like the people who are viewing, people who are watching, could you talk a little bit about A Course in Miracles, what it is?
Yeah,
Give us your feedback about that.
absolutely. So when you look at A Course in Miracles, the way I like to say it, and even it's written on the cover of the book, it's a foundation for inner peace. Foundation for inner peace. So no matter what your on ramp is to spirituality, right? A Course in Miracles is a universal teaching. So you can come you can approach the course from a Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam. All of the teachings are designed to connect you to a universal truth of spirit itself, of life itself, of love itself, whatever you may call it. And so it's broken down into different segments. One segment would be the daily teachings. So there are daily lessons that you read, and these lessons may require you to maybe take a few minutes and just to be observant of different aspects of your day, right? So there's daily lessons. Then there's also there's chapters to read, right? There's a chapter that will give you more detail about the lesson so that you can, it starts you out at the very beginning. Like one of the first lessons is everything around me that I see, I give meaning to. So it starts you at a very basic level where kind of, starts you at grassroots, wipes the slate clean, and then builds you up so that you can see some of the errors and ways of thinking that we may have, but ultimately leading you into a state of remembrance of who you are. So the chapter version is something that you read on a weekly or daily basis. And then last but not least, there's the teacher's manual. And the teacher's manual is for those who choose to teach. But as you find out throughout the course, that everyone is a teacher, that you're not just a student of A Course in Miracles, but you are also a teacher itself. And that gives you a little bit more insight into the material. But I would say it's a fantastic course in terms of bringing you into a state of remembrance, a state of community, a state of inner peace, and understanding that miracles are everyday occurrences. Everyday occurrences.
Do you recall who's the author of that of A Course in Miracles? I can't remember currently.
You know what? They don't even really focus on the author of it. I mean,
the author. I remember something about it. I just can't remember what it was.
Give me one quick second. They really don't focus on the authors. I think because the way it was constructed, it was physicians that were working together, and they were having a difficult time in their communion and in their relationships. And so they sat down and the book was channeled. So when you look at it, it really does not say any author on it. It's just the foundation for inner peace, the complete course plus the supplements. So, but it was inspired writing through channeling. And it's absolutely a life-changing book. But I'll say the community that comes as a result of that. Our conversation earlier about being able to grow faster in community and those insights that are available to one, you would be amazed on a weekly basis the amount of transformation and miracles that we witness as a group. I salute Veronica for coming up with the idea, because she's done a fantastic job. She goes on different retreats, and everyone that she meets, she brings them back to the community. And so we're able to tap into a collective energy. And from that standpoint, just really, really grow. And now these lessons are, they're distributed throughout different aspects of our lives. And we've seen tremendous growth. So such a blessing to be a part of that.
Yeah, I noticed when I was reading through it, it's kind of mirrored a lot of earlier works that were before it, having to do with theosophy and Rosicrucianism.
Yes.
But there is no original thought. There's just a bunch of different channels, and the channels are all different frequencies. They're all different. I call it singing the song. Each one of us needs to hear a particular song. The song of a certain teaching might not be the frequency for someone, whereas another one, even though it's saying the same thing, just maybe in different language, pops up in a way in someone's mind, and that really anchors with them, begins to make some changes. I love how much that's something that's, though it's good and bad in a way, in the kind of the world we're living in now, because we live in a space now where we have endless amounts of information. You can inundate yourself and flood yourself with as much information as you can possibly handle. And I see that often. I see a lot of people who are on their spiritual journey, they'll end up doing what I call the hamster wheel. And that's, I read a book, I put it down, I pick up another book, and I just keep reading. I keep giving myself the information, but I'm never actually applying the knowledge. I'm not taking the information and knowledge and applying it into my reality to gain experience. And that's usually where I'm seeing in this time, we call it kind of pseudo spirituality, because you can know the path. You can read the path, you can know the path, you can know all the terminology, the ideas, but until you start to actually place it into your reality and see how that miracle is working in your life, you don't have wisdom. and the wisdom is missing. And that's usually it's I think we talked about this like in our off-air meeting when we were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about medicine, about psychedelic medicines, all
Hmm.
kinds. The integration of whatever you're taking in is really what's more important than what you're taking in. And when people
Yeah.
ask, because people ask me often, they'll be like, Anthony, what are some good books for me to read? I was like, let your spirit guide you to those. I don't want to give those to you, because the thing is, I don't read a lot of books. My awareness didn't come from any book; it came from source,
That's
and
right.
that's where I always will try to guide people to. Books are great, but they're
Hmm.
kind of like more like sparks.
Yep.
The fire is in you. You got to open up your fire.
Yes, that's you nailed it. That's it. That's exactly it. There's so much information out there. The
Yeah.
key now is the embodiment of what you read, right? Transforming information informs, knowledge and wisdom transform, right? And that's the difference. But you got to embody that piece. You got to embody it. I love it. I was just reading in the Bhagavad Gita the other day, was talking about when Krishna was speaking to Arjuna, and he was saying that there are many paths, right? But all the paths lead to me.
Mm-hmm.
All of the paths lead to me. So even in yoga, you do your karma yoga, your bhakti yoga, your jnana yoga, your raja yoga, different paths of yoga, but they all lead to the same spot. You just got to figure out what makes you come alive,
Mm-hmm.
right? What makes you come alive? Some things that work for me and allow me and make me feel alive may not work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They may not work for everybody, but I love how you say, you embody that. It's not just the text. It reminds me of a story that I've heard. There was a revival, and they invited two reverends to show up and speak. And there was a younger reverend who, very charismatic and, well educated, and there was an older gentleman who, not as educated, but one of them old school preachers that knew how to do it, right? And so the young guy gets up there, and they asked him to preach about the 23rd Psalm: "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And so the first guy goes up there, and of course he gets up there and he reads it, and he delivers a fantastic message. And then the older gentleman gets up there and he kind of mumbles his way through, but by the time he got done, there was no eyes that were dry in the sanctuary. Everybody was kind of moved and being healed. And the young guy goes to the old preacher. He's like, how did you do that? Like, you didn't even really know the 23rd Psalm like that. And the old guy was like, yeah, well, the 23rd Psalm. I know the shepherd. Right. So that's the difference. It's knowing the knower who knows, right? That soul, your soul, right? You're one with your soul. There is no separation. And you don't get that through just mere reading and study, although that is an inroad that helps you. At the end of the day, it's the embodiment piece that makes
Sure.
all of the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That makes all the
And
difference.
that also has a lot to do with one's perception. So, what I say about the scripture is scriptures are wonderful, but until you have the ability to absorb them intuitively, you're just going to stumble over the intellectuality of how it's written. It's meant to be, it's the greatest part of the scripture isn't meant to be intellectualized. It's meant to be intuitively taken in. And once you start to do that, it changes everything, because earlier on in my journey, that's how I saw the scripture. I basically saw it as like, look at the stuff they put together to try to control men's minds, is what I saw, because I could see that in there, but I didn't have the intuitive capacity to be able to feel the underlying truth.
Mhm.
But as that began to rise, it starts to change everything. That starts to change the understanding. Now it's not just these words I'm stumbling over, trying to make sense of them with my mind. I'm feeling what the message is, because that's what the message is. Just like when someone holds up their book and they say, this is the word of God. I can't agree with that. This points to the word of God, because the word of God is in no book. That's not where it's at. And that's kind of where it comes down to. And then that reminds me of something that recently, I wish I could remember who it was with the quote, but the quote, it was an Indian teacher. And the quote was something like, it was talking about scripture, and one needs to be enlightened to be able to understand the scripture. So meaning you have to have a certain form of consciousness to be able to intuitively understand the scripture.
Mhm.
Once you possess that level of consciousness or enlightenment, you no longer need the scripture. That's how that works. And so then that points to how, like, kind of our society and how it is right now. Most of the people who are religious teachers are non-spiritual. They don't have a spiritual mind. They have a religious mind. So all they're doing is regurgitating rules and limitations and passing that down. So that's changing, though, because in my experience as a shamanic priest, I've had in the last couple of years 5 different Christian pastors come to me for
Oh, that's
guidance,
beautiful. That's dope.
telling me, like, I've had this awakening and now
Yeah.
I don't want to be I don't want to do this anymore because I feel like I'm not telling the truth. And then we kind of go into those ideas of resistance and everything and start to change the mind into, no, you're in the perfect place, because now what you can do is you can actually spread the word. You can use Christian language to be able to convey very deep conscious kinds of being. And
Yeah.
so with the people I've worked with, that's become very helpful for them. And they brought it into their congregations. Now, what happens is some people pick up on that and they take off. And then some people stay and bring others with them, the people that are there and want to learn that style of being that goes beyond. I'm not one of those people, like, because I'm a spiritualist where I look down on religion. I'm an omnist. I see that there's beauty in all religions, but there's also lies. And I'm okay with that. Like, I have the discernment to understand the difference. I see the beauty that's been put there, and I also see what's been put on top of it. I don't consider that a problem. I consider that that's on purpose, because what that's going to do, it's going to take someone a certain way, a certain route. And it is through our trial is how we grow and how we become our greatest self.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah, I'm very similar in terms of no judgment in that. I have no judgment in terms of, which religious background is. It's beautiful. It all, like I said, all roads are going to lead there, right? All roads will lead there.
Like all your veins and arteries lead back to your heart. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And I love how you were saying, those messages that you find in the book, they're available for me in nature. It's so interesting. One of my favorite spiritual teachers, Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. I love him to pee. I mean, incredible. What I started noticing, before I would live stream, I would go out in nature and I would do some qigong and then I would meditate. And I would get a message from there and I would write it in my journal. And then I would come back later on the day and I would listen to Agape's love stream. And the exact message that I got in nature was the exact message that he was preaching that day. And I remember specifically one service, he said, don't just listen to me, listen to who I listen to, which is the intuition, which comes from spirit. And so for me, it really drove home the point that, at some point when you increase your intuition, when you really tap into your intuition and you understand and you have that alignment, that, to your point earlier, the books are good, but the embodiment comes from the intuition, expanding your field of awareness, and all those other messages, the things that you need, those insights and downloads, they flow effortlessly through you, to you, and as you. It's a beautiful process. It's a beautiful process, but they're all there, and that's the embodiment piece. That's the embodiment piece, because that, for me, when I hear it from my higher self, it lands a lot different.
Yeah.
It lands a lot different. And I go back in my journal and I read it. I was like, oh, wow. What a blessing that is. What a blessing that is.
A cool question just came in. Let's explore that. Andrew Nardu. Hi, Andrew. Let's put that up here. Do you feel religion is from the source or man? Everything's from the source. So that's what I would say. I'll expand on that a little bit. So religion was created by man to try to help other people understand consciousness, is kind of what the whole idea was. Just like of the founding fathers of our country. These were very enlightened people that wrote the Constitution. They just weren't able to foresee how lawyers were going to bend everything, to bend stuff and use it in their own way. So man, what they did with this beautiful purity of religion, because religion, basically, how did it start? There were people that have the ability to communicate to source, to a higher frequency of consciousness, and they started to download information, they'd write it down, and this is how the books came. Or some would say God talked to this guy and he wrote it down. And so by writing those things down, that created this basis of knowledge and understanding. Then what happened over time is, man could see, I don't like to point a lot of fingers, but I do kind of point the finger at the church, the Catholic Church. They used it in a lot of ways to try to control people. And that's where it started going off into the world, where Christianity became something that, if you didn't do what we like, we're going to kill you. Is kind of, there's so many people that have been killed in the name of God, especially through, not all religions really, but mostly Christianity, because it's so big. But as you're saying, that, do I feel there's a religion is from source or man? For me, there is no separation. I would say it in these words: all is one living energy. Separation is an illusion of the fallen ego mind. That's how I would kind of pronounce that. So there is no separation, but kind of going into your question about it, like, well, yeah, man kind of adulterated it, messed with it on purpose. And then really what the biggest thing that happened is where man started to make it so God is something separate and away from you, something you'll have to die to know, or you're not worthy of being with, or you have to consistently be repentant and beaten down and small. And one of the craziest things I ever hear is God fearing. Why would you be afraid of your creator? That's never made any sense to me. So yeah, so I get the question. I hope that kind of covers some of the things, and I'm interested in, Andre, do you have anything you would add to that or
Yeah,
expand?
it's interesting. What came to mind was, thinking about God making man in his image and likeness, and man returning the favor. I would look at religion returning the favor to God in terms of making God in man's image and likeness, right? And so it's a different take. Like I said, I had no judgment on religion. I came through understanding of spirituality through Christianity, right? And so that really gave me a foundation. But as I got older, as I matured, I started reading different texts. I had a different understanding of it, and in many respects, we're all saying very similar things. But however, to your point, religion has been used to oppress a lot of people, oppress a lot of people, and it was used out of context. It was never designed to enslave, never designed to as a tool to manifest destiny, if you will, right? That was never the case for these channelings, for these teachings. But at the end of the day, I believe all roads do lead to love, no matter which way you call it, right? However you slice it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I have a lot of different kinds of viewpoints and everything about kind of how religion has been used and things. Again, I don't look at anything as it's wrong. I think that everything has its design, its purposeful design. This always takes me into, well, there's lots of people that love to live in the mindset of, fail your way into greatness, or I'm imperfect and that's okay kind of thing. I kind of have a different viewpoint. I believe everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. I believe the sunshine, the sunrise, the sunset, the grass, every human on this planet is perfect. What is not perfect is our expectations, our deluded expectations of what perfect is supposed to be. That's
Mhm.
the difference. So you can never convince me that nothing's perfect, because I understand that it is. What I do know is we have judgments. We judge the present moment. It doesn't mean everything feels good all the time,
Correct.
but it's understanding that the universe doesn't make junk, or God doesn't make mistakes. I
No
don't
mistakes.
come from
Correct.
that kind of way.
Correct. I agree with that. That there are no mistakes. God makes no mistakes. I think man. There's the old Sufi quote that says, "Between man and God, between God and man, there are no veils. Between man and God, there's seven." Right. So we
Mhm,
create these illusions. We create this separation.
mhm,
Um, Religion to me is interesting. While I have no judgment, and I look historically, and I see uh, the impact that false doctrine, how religion has been used to oppress people. It does kind of, it rubs me the wrong way in some respects,
sure.
right? And so I work through that, but yeah, it does rub me the wrong way when I look at it, particularly from a historical perspective, right? When we think
Right.
about, you alluded to the Catholic Church and the papal bull, and the ability to use doctrine to say that people are inferior, and to, when enslaved Africans were first captured, the first thing they did, they were baptized into the church,
Converted,
right?
right? Mhm.
Converted, right? And so we see historically how religion was used as a tool of oppression. So from that perspective, yeah, not fully. I don't get overly excited about it, but at the same time, I'm not judgmental as in terms of where people are in the journey, because at the end of the day, I believe that the truth of who we are is always being revealed and unfolding. And at the end of the day, when I have evidence, I've seen who we are, and I know that where that path leads. So
Mhm.
it's all good. If it ain't
Yeah,
all good, it ain't done.
I see too, and then that takes me back to something you said a little bit ago, being created in the image of God. I don't believe that's the form of a man. That's not
Mm-mm.
how it is for me. I believe that it's the torrid field of energy in which we actually are, the luminous bubble, the Holy Spirit, the aura. There's many different ways to call this field of living energy in which we actually are. I actually perceive other people's energy fields, feel, sense, touch, smell. I can really understand other people's energy, and this is what makes me a very effective healer in what I do, because I can sense and feel blockage. I can sense and feel impedance and things that are going on. And as that awareness in me grew, it really changed my perspective,
Mm-mm.
because we're raised, especially if in forms of religion, to think that my soul is inside my body, but it isn't. You are a soul, a body's in you. That's really what it is. This is who we really are. The
Correct.
luminous field of energy is actually who we are, and also what God is. God is the
Mm.
luminous all field of energy that generates this field of energy, which isn't separate from the one. So that's something that's always really amazing to me, and that made the scripture make so much more sense to me when I came into that intuitive awareness that, oh wow, I'm a field of living energy. Oh, that's what God is. Oh, that makes a lot more sense now. Now I can understand more about who I am. And then that kind of changed things in a big way. And what helped me heal is understanding that the body in which I'm perceiving and having this experience with is a direct reflection of my
Mm.
energetic being, my
That's right.
energetic field. And if I switch or change my energetic being, my energetic field, this thing changes. And it has. I've been able to, I mean, it blows people's minds to find out that I've been able to heal myself from terminal illness. They're like, "Are
Yeah,
you serious? You couldn't breathe before, and now you teach people all over the world how to breathe? Isn't that amazing?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's completely amazing. And this is also what gives me faith. It's my
that's right.
deepest part of my faith. You can never tell me, no one could ever take my faith from me." And that's the thing. Most people don't understand what faith is. Faith isn't a believing. Believing's one thing. That's part of a belief system kind of that
Mm-hmm.
happens. Faith is knowing. It's a unquestionable kind of feeling of, oh wow, I really understand what I am beyond whatever the story is. Because that's how I see it. It's all just living energy moving around doing its thing. The rest is a story, and we get to observe that story basically any way we choose to,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we start to realize, like, who am I? Those are like those fundamental awakening questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Who am I?
Yep.
That starts to happen, and you start to have that kind of questioning, that internal questioning, trying to find out, oh, who I am. That's what really starts to open the mind and awareness for people to begin to open up. Because just as we were talking about, getting close with nature and everything, that's not just something just because you go outside that turns on. You got to open yourself up. You got to want to. You got to, that in itself takes a certain connection of frequency consciousness for you to even understand to do that. And not
Mm-hmm.
everyone's there yet. But how do we help other people get into there? Most people think it's, I have to go and I have to twist someone's arm to go meditate. And it's never that. It's my meditation, your meditation,
That's right.
all of us. And I call that the rainbow tribe of the planet. That's how it's
Mm.
described in our tradition, the rise of the rainbow tribe. We're in that time now. It's all people of different backgrounds, ideas, teaching styles, so on and so forth, where we come together and we can see, one, our likeness, and then two, celebrate our difference, because
Mhm.
that's really where our power is. Our deepest power is in our difference and our complementary opposites. Bringing those two, look how much more powerful the world can be if all of us come together with all of our collective knowledge and love we can do anything. Like, I'm aware that we can do anything. And that's what's talked about in our shamanic tradition, is in this time, what's happening right now, we're constructing an energetic womb, which is understood as like the fourth dimension in kind of westernized terms. We call this the fourth level of consciousness, the fourth level of consciousness, where we start to have a unpolarized mind. We're not so dualistic in our thinking. We start to operate from love. And then what that's opening is opening into the fifth level of consciousness, or the fifth dimension, where now fifth dimension beings begin to rise. People that have the ability to just heal you with touch, just touch, not to heal what's broken in you, glorify you, bring you into a fifth dimension level being. And that starts to spread all over the globe and starts to begin the shift. And then that goes even deeper into understanding. In our tradition, it talks about, as the fifth level beings come to life and help others come into their fifth level, this essentially puts feathers on the wings of Pachamama. So it's saying, like, it allows her to spread her wings and fly into the next frequency of being or dimension, a fifth dimension. And this is what people are, even in the scripture, in the time of Revelation, talks about glorified bodies and being risen. This makes a lot more sense to me than the way I was taught through religion of, oh, I see, we'll evolve into higher beings, which we already are. We're just remembering that we are those things. And as that happens, since we're all co-dreamers of this reality, we'll all begin to dream a new reality, a whole new reality, a whole new world. And that's something that's super exciting to me.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. It's that goes back to that, the morphic resonance, right? It's that amplify. We amplify every time we sit, every time we meditate, every time we do a spiritual practice. It's not just us that are impacted. It's everyone around us. It's that field. It's that entire field. It's expanding, and we all have access to it. And every people around you awaken. I always say, if you want to know if your meditation is working, just look at your life. Like, look around, right? The evidence shows up in your everyday life, and that's just your spiritual practice overall. And it's not just you; it's the people around you, right? You can tell that their consciousness changes, and yours expands as well. So that's a beautiful thing. You said something that really hit home in terms of, earlier in your the conversation about identification with gender, right? With not just having just a physical body, but being available to understand yourself as not just a man or a woman, but just as a luminous being, right? As a pure awareness. And I'm interested in terms of understanding your journey to getting to that space, right? Because that's not necessarily, when you move through life, you don't always hold on to that. You hold on to a gender, to an identity, to a role, to a position. So what was your journey like in coming to a space of having an open heart and understanding the true essence of your being?
So that all kind of happened. I would say it's kind of hard to explain. I'd say the biggest part of that happened in like an instant. It was an instant. I didn't have to. I'm a rememberer. They call me a kawak in our tradition. So the rememberer. I already have always been this, and I'm aware of that. So it was when I was very ill and I couldn't breathe. I didn't sleep for about 3 days. Insomnia was a very normal part of my life, most of my life. And I was just having a really hard day. And that's when I was asking, I have a tendency to ask my higher mind or spirit open-ended questions where I don't look for the answer. And they just work a lot better than trying to find them with your past experience. So my question was, why should I continue? Because I already was spiritually awake enough to know that I was a spirit having a human experience. I had no fear of my death or anything. My question was, why should I continue if I don't need to stay in this body? Why should I stay here and suffocate to death and all the other symptoms I was having? And my wife's watching me and my daughter's watching me. And I can tell they're heartbroken because they're watching this strong man fall to pieces, And that was really painful and very, very hurtful for me. And that brought forward that question, why should I continue? And that was when I had a really strong kind of download epiphany. An angelic being came to me and spoke to me. And it was really simple what it said to me. And this is how the positive pineapple was born. It said to me, perhaps, it knew how to talk to me. It didn't say, you better. It said, perhaps you can think about things more positively. That was the first thing that this angel said to me. This angel I work with all the time now, too. Has been very powerful to me. So it said to me, perhaps you could think about things more positively. So I sat there for a second, and then I got really pissed. So I was like, what? How am I supposed to be positive? What do you mean? Like, do you see what's happening? I'm suffocating to death. I can't laugh. I can't cry. I can't run. I can't do anything. And I'm barely 40 years old. I'm supposed to be positive about this. And then the next thing I said, the next breath was, and have you seen the state of the world? Have you seen it? Is what I said. So the angel paused for a minute as I sat there, still kind of huffing and puffing, like, be positive. What? What is that? What nonsense is that? And then the next thought came in, and it said to me, perhaps you don't see things as they are, but you see things as you are. And I was like, oh, something started to click really quick. So then it seemed like 10 hours, but it was like probably less than 10 minutes. All this unfolding started to happen, and my awareness started to arise in this really big way. And something happened in that moment that I can only tell you was a miracle. I became completely non-resistant to my reality in that moment. I no longer had resistance to anything. I couldn't find the bad in anything anymore in that moment. Not saying that I don't have challenges sometimes now. I have amnesia just like the rest of us do from time to time, but that's not my base mindset. My base mindset isn't of anywhere near a victim anymore. That's what I was up until that point. Like, this has all happened to me. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? All these things. And what happened in that moment is I just became completely accepted. All of a sudden, I could see how everything happened to get me right there. And even though I was sick and I was still dying, I no longer had resistance to it. I said, if this is how it is, then so be it. I have a choice on how I operate in this mode where I'm at. I jumped up out of my bed. I went off into the kitchen. My wife and my daughter are sitting there, and I walk in, and they're just like whopper jawed, kind of looking at me. And they're like, you're glowing. You're like glowing. You look golden and glowing. Like, you look alive. What's going on? And all I could do is I just started crying. I was like, the most amazing thing happened to me. And, to make it in easy terms, that day I was touched by God. I was touched by the Creator itself. And it reminded me of who I actually am. I'm not that story. And that's what kind of, for me, where that started. Now, I know that's not typical for most people. I'm fully aware of that. But I think a lot of people have pieces that happen like that in their life, and they can begin to cultivate those things through choice, saying, and it starts there first at the awareness. Do I want to change? Looking at your life and what's going on. Even if you have a really good life, it's okay to still want to grow and expand. But looking at your life, do I want to change? And stepping into that, the awareness is the first place, because, and like we said, all paths lead to the same place, but all paths begin at awareness. Without awareness, you have nothing. Nothing starts there. Right. And then usually where I usually have most people start to step into their journey is starting to become aware of your breathing. Just if you're not ready, not everybody's ready to meditate. I couldn't meditate at all at first because I thought that I had to be able to shut my mind off. That's what I thought, because that's what the world was telling me. I didn't understand that by me sitting there in my stillness. And even though my mind runs away, every time I come back, I'm building that muscle.
That's right.
I didn't understand that at first, but that's what true meditation is. That's where most people, I tried, but I failed. What do you mean? Well, my mind was running. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Become aware of that, aware that my mind, that's your awareness. I don't want to be taken away by my thought. I'm not trying to stop it and make it a black chalkboard or anything like that. I'm letting it happen, and I'm bringing my attention back into me. The easiest place is your breath. Why do we do that? Because you can't overthink and be aware of your breath at the same time. You can't.
Correct.
Try it. It doesn't work. You can't do it. So that's that primary thing. That's how we develop our intuition. And that's why meditation is such an important tool. And even if, again, this goes into, there's so many paths, but there's one path that always is there: internal stillness. Yes. Without awareness and internal stillness, you're not going to go very far. That's not what's going to happen. You can add in all the other practices you want, because it's not about the practices. It's about how you're learning how to manipulate and use your nervous system for you.
Internal stillness, internal stillness, the awareness piece, just breathing, like literally I think meditation kind of gets, mystified a little bit, right? It reminds me, I drew an analogy to drinking like French wines. Back in the early 2000s, I was a wine salesman coming out of college, right? And so I had to learn all these things about French wines and reading the labels and all of that. And it was just so intricate and detailed. I was like, somebody got to make this simple, right? Like, it's a good grapes, a good juice, it tastes good, right? Like that's what I wanted, right? And so just simplifying, and literally you nailed it, right? Just, your mind is going to think thoughts. The thoughts are going to be there. That's his job. You're going to have thoughts that pass through your awareness. And yeah, your attention may grasp onto a thought, but that's okay too. You could just bring it back to your breath. And to your point, you're building up that muscle because you're moving from a state of reacting to being able to respond. Right. And so when you get in stressful situations, and you're nervous, you get all tight and tense and all that. But now you have a habit, you created a practice of being able to just to breathe and bring it back to the now. I love it. You say the breath, you can't breathe in the future, you can't breathe in the past, you can only breathe here now. And anchoring, using your breath as a focal point of your meditation is everything. It's everything. It's a beautiful point. And I remember my first meditation was unbelievable. I set my phone for 3 minutes. I saw a video with Deepak on YouTube. He was on a hip hop station. I don't know what he was. I really don't even know all the details. He was talking about a 21-day meditation challenge, but literally it was just the way he was saying it hit home. I said, whatever he got, I need. It was a level of peace in his voice. So I said, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to meditate today. So I grabbed my phone. I sat down, grabbed my phone, set the timer for 3 minutes. That's all I had. I knew I wasn't going to be able to meditate for a full 10 minutes. But I closed my eyes, and I even saw somebody do a mudra. So I did a little mudra. And the moment I closed my eyes and I took a deep breath, it was like, whoosh, all of these thoughts just started passing through my awareness. But these are the thoughts, the things that I was afraid of, the stuff that I was worrying about. My wife was pregnant. I was questioning, am I going to be a good father? We were newly married. Am I going to be a good husband? Am I going to get the ideal job that I want? All these thoughts that were controlling me and making me anxious and nervous and worried passed through my awareness. And finally, after those 3 minutes went, I was like, oh, okay. The tail has been wagging the dog the whole time. I get it. I'm aware of these thoughts now. Before, they were lingering under the surface, and I would just try to run them away. I would literally just run, 8 or 10 miles a day and try to run those. But the thoughts would be there when I got done with my race. They didn't go anywhere, right? I couldn't smoothie them away. I tried to drink all the healthy smoothies, and it made me feel good. My body felt great, right? My body looked good, but my mind was still ensnared. And it wasn't until I had the awareness to observe the thoughts. And then I saw the truth of it all. And I was like, oh, I'm worried about all this stuff. They ain't even playing out. Ain't even real. It's not even real. So the meditation piece, the awareness part, such a critical aspect of my journey. And I appreciate you for calling that out because it really helps me to your point earlier, regulate my nervous system through my awareness of my breath.
Yep. I mean, that's its primary thing. That's the whole thing that's happening is you're learning how to be able to shift yourself from a sympathetic state, a sympathetic dominant state, a fight or flight mode, into a parasympathetic dominant state, a rest and digest mode. This is called, like in the shamanic sense, this is how what we say is shaman must alter his state to be able to step into the spiritual space. Now, some shamans have to use substances and things to do that. I don't believe that humans need that in any sort of way and necessarily to be able to enter an altered state of consciousness. This happens just through practice. And the thing is everybody develops at a different rate. Just because your friend's been meditating for a few months and is having these rapid kinds of changes and everything doesn't mean yours will be that way. It might be that yours is going to take longer because maybe you have a harder time letting go of the thoughts, the story that's blocking you from being able to just let your guard down for a little bit. People that have high levels of stress, and I work with lots of people and veterans and things with PTSD, meditation is not something at all, and even in the realm of a word they can understand or start with. So we start them just with, let's get you used to feeling your breath, just coming into, instead of being out here, just coming into, and that's interoception, inner body awareness, coming into the inner body. My favorite thing is to teach people to breathe into different parts of their body. Breathe into your hands, breathe into your feet. I have a video that people love. It can become very psychedelic, alternate lung breathing, bringing all your attention to one lung, the left lobe, filling up that left lung, and then repeating that a bunch of times and squeezing into that left lung. And then you're done. Now, the whole left side of your body's vibrating, the other side in a different kind of frequency. Then you're switching over to here. It's so powerful how that can begin to train our mind. And I do all kinds of different kinds of trainings like this for myself because I'm really deep into neurological training. That's basically what everything I do, and all of my teaching and all of my healing is directly related to, is helping people learn how to become self-regulating. Because if you learn how to regulate that nervous system, now all this other stuff starts to fall out of the way. And now the practices, those roads, those paths that lead to the same source open up in front of you. So all these new kinds of potentials and possibilities open up in front of you, and then you can find your way. You can go that way. That's why I don't say there's only one way. Like, this is weird. There's plenty of people that think that there's only one way. There isn't one way. There's a couple things that are inherent to all human beings. And one of them is, if you have lungs that work, you're going to want to learn how to breathe, because this is your primary, how your body is alive. I like to call it like you're huffing, your reality. You sit here, how you huff has everything to do with how you perceive your reality. And when you're done huffing, the reality is over. And then you get to go to the next thing. Mary said, I was never able to connect to the word God growing up, but nature has always been my higher power, just always naturally could feel the deep connection. Mary's my wife. And yeah, she's also a initiated priest and very much a nature being. I call her Pacha Mary. Like,
that's beautiful.
David's here. He's speaking in Quechua. He said, Wilkanuna Waki Chai. That means sacred soul brother. Anaiki Kuyaki Wilkanuna Waki Chai. Sai Wakapunamanta Samachaiki. David's a good guy. He's one of my good brothers on the path. Also one of my proteges. Wonderful.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I'm looking here. So on our skeleton itinerary, something we could touch on real quick is, how can listeners deepen their connection to nature in their everyday life? Right. And then address common challenges and misconceptions about connecting with nature and offer practical tips for overcoming them. So we kind of talked about some of that stuff. So I will share a little bit about how you can begin to connect with nature every day. And this is something I'll share with you, some of my practice. So
I'm to hear that. Like, what's your morning routine, if you will? Because the idea, so I'm familiar with like Nadi showing like alternate nostril breathing, but alternate lung breathing is a whole that's exceptional, man. I got to try that out. So
please do. I'd love to hear how that works for you. The more sensitive you are, the more you get. I have other tutorials and things on my YouTube page that are very powerful, helping you to learn how to get in touch with your energetic bubble, connecting with your bubble, connecting with spiritual guidance around you, all kinds of things. I have a bunch of different ways, because everybody kind of needs a different kind of way of understanding. But like, I'll kind of go with like a primary kind of way to begin to connect with nature. And well, the first thing is I like to so I'll talk about my practice a little bit. My day starts, my alarm goes off. Sometimes I wake up before the alarm, but usually the alarm goes off. I hit the snooze, and what I begin to do is I begin to breathe and focus on gratitude. That's the first thing I do. I used to first check my messages, get up, I look at my phone, worry about what I'm going to do for the day. I decide that that's not important in this moment, so I'm training my mind not to fall into an old pattern. So I wake up, I'm up, good. I start to fall into my breath. And what I do is I like to do about a 3 to 5 seconds in, and then about 7 seconds out. Long extended exhales, and I just fall into that breath. And as I fall into that breath, I don't give the counting any mind anymore, and I start to focus on gratitude. I start to just feel the gratitude in me. Like, so I've trained myself to where I don't need pictures to feel gratitude, because it's already in me. It already is me. I just take my awareness into the gratitude that lives in me. But if you can't become aware of that right away, what I say is, think about the things you're most grateful for: your wife, your children, your house, your relationships, your dog, whatever it might be, whatever it is, whatever brings the thought of gratitude to you. Because it starts with that thought, the visualization. Gratitude comes in, and then you're taking that energy, you're taking it from here in the head, because that's all coming into your head, the thinking mind. And then what I do is I say, take that energy and let it take the elevator. Shh, take the energy down into your heart, into your upper belly, like the main area of the center part of your body. You're bringing it into the center of the body. And now what you're doing is you're paying attention to how that feels. You're letting go of the concepts of gratitude, and you're just bringing all of your attention to feeling gratitude. And as I'm sitting there and I'm breathing, I've brought the gratitude into me. My next part of my exercise is see if you can spread that vibration all over your body. And with every breath, I'm breathing in. It's like I start to use my mind's eye and disciplined imagination. I'm calling in the spirit and energy of gratitude, and I bring it into me, and then I push it out around me. And I bring it into me, and I push it out around me until my whole body's vibrating in gratitude. And that it turns it up for me. Like it turns up the volume. Now I'm even more gratitude. And now probably 4 minutes has passed, and now I start to breathe. I start to pick up this pace of my breath. Now I'm radiating. Now I'm putting my mind to radiate the gratitude. And it starts off, I'm radiating, and my eyes are closed. And now I can feel the walls of my room, the ceiling, the contents, and I can feel my gratitude just vibrating into these things. And as I continue, it starts to vibrate back. And now what that does is this puts me in balance with my life. Because now what's happened is I've achieved something in our tradition we call Aini, which is always there, but this is kind of a deeper form. This is divine reciprocity. I'm now giving and taking and become one with the field of life that is around me, one with nature. And then I stay there and I just keep kind of going along with this. And the alarm goes off again. Beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, okay, that's the end of that. That's how I shut that off for now. And then I'll usually try to check messages, look at some things. And then after that, I like to get up. I like to go into the bathroom, use the bathroom. And then I typically take a 3 to 5 minute cold shower. I turn the shower on cold all the way. I take some big breaths and I just walk right into it and take it. Spend about 3 to 5 minutes in there. I also, as I do this, I like to treat it very sacredly. So I call in the living energy. I call in our tradition, we call her Mama Unu, Mother Water. I'm calling in Mother Water. She has the capacity and intelligence to help me wash away anything I no longer need. And I'm letting it wash down me, goes down the drain. And she's taking my energy in the form of body heat. She's taking energy from me. And after I give her some, I start to drink her divine intelligence, taking it into me. And I picture all the trillions of cells in my body. And what's happening at the same time, my dopamine levels rising 250% and stays that way for about 7 hours. So I'm getting in there. I'm getting that cold. That's the next step. Now, the next step is, it depends kind of where time is falling right there. I may have to take my daughter to school, or if I can get it in before she goes to school, I like to get outside. Like this morning, I was in the backyard in just my shorts. It's kind of warm here now. Like it was 60 something in the morning, but it's still February. And most people don't go outside in the morning in just their bare feet and a pair of shorts outside. So I go outside. The first thing I like to do is catch that early morning rising sun. That rising sun comes up. This is how you start to really connect with nature. Because then what I'm doing is I'm opening up my heart space. And what I'm saying is I'm inviting Father Sun. We call him Inti Taita in our tradition. And so I start to pray. I start to pray in Quechua. Haya, Inti Taita, ampui, ampui, ampui. I'm calling Inti Taita to me. That beautiful energy, the golden luminous energy. And what does it do? I start to sun gaze. It's coming in through my eyes. And I can feel it start to tickle my pineal gland. Ooh, that really starts to wake stuff up for me. It's like, oh my goodness, this is so wonderful. And then usually I'm standing there, I'm doing some breath. As I kind of get accustomed to that, then I start to do some Qigong. Then I start to like to move my body, get everything kind of moving around. And that's just like a 5 or 6 minutes. And as I'm doing that, I'm connected to the earth. I call in the earth as well. Pachamama, haya, Pachamama, ampui. I'm calling in Pachamama. I'm calling in all the nature beings and spirits in my backyard, the trees that are in my backyard. We call those Mauki, calling those all in. So I'm just out there. I'm just having a really good Paco time. I'm having a nature mystic moment at that time. And I'm out there, and I spend probably just 6 or 7 minutes. I never time it, so I can't tell you for sure. I know when it's what I got, what I need. I give my thanks and my gratitude. I close up my energetic bubble, and then I go in the house. And then I start my day. Then there's work of whatever kind of sort or whatever like that. But then during the day, I have a bunch of other practices. I'm very much like a monk. I spend time every day doing different types of like vestibular training, different types of balance training and things to create hemispherical syncing. I'm big into like the Monroe Institute things, teaching your brain how to become that. Having the neuroplastic kind of crossing that's happening in the two hemispheres. I'm really big about neurology. I brush my teeth with my opposite hand quite often. I even when I brush my teeth, I like to create a sacredness about it. I find the sacredness of my toothpaste, my non-fluoride toothpaste, touching my toothbrush, and I brush my teeth, and it's very loving. Before it used to be like, all right, brush my teeth, make sure they're clean, gotta go, kind of thing. Now I'm in no hurry at all. Nothing here is more important than my time here with me. And it's the same way, even when I cook or I make coffee or whatever I do, I like to take my time to really be with it and feel it. And this is how you begin to really cultivate a closeness with nature. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be outside and with a tree or in the woods, which are great things. Not everyone has the ability to do that. You can because you understand everything around you is part of living nature. Everything. So even just lighting a candle, it could be your daily chores around your home. It could be the work you're doing that you're normally complaining about and hating. If you can slow yourself down, become first aware. I'm aware that I want to bring my awareness here. I'm aware. 2 is your breath. Bringing connection into your breathing. Nice, slow, deep breaths, using that diaphragm, moving blood, lymph, cerebral spinal fluid into the brain, attenuating the vagus nerve, just taking your time. And the more aware you can become aware of your breath, the more you get out of it. It is for me now. I'm mostly always, it's rare that I'm not aware of my breath. And what I notice, the only time I'm not aware of my breath is when I've fallen into amnesia. Is when I forgot who I am and I'm disagreeing with reality. There should be some other way. And then I realize then my awareness comes in like, oh, well, that's not true. Okay, well, there's my awareness. 2, I'm going to come into my breath. 3, I'm going to install new words. I'm going to put new self-talk in there instead of whatever the story I'm agreeing to or whatever limitation. Now that's got me in beta brainwave rate and it's got me in sympathetic dominance. I'm worried and I'm afraid, and that makes no sense at all. Okay, I don't want to do that. Calming the body down. I am enough. I have enough. It is enough. I am love. I am light. I am eternal loving awareness. You start putting in new words. For most people, I tell them, whatever you're saying, agreeing to yourself that's beating you down, put in the antithesis. I'm poor. I don't have enough. I'm abundant and everything I need is here. Starting to put those things in. That all encapsulates connection to nature, because the nature isn't just nature. But then I also go further than that. I take people that I take in for healing clients and things. I'll take them out into the woods. I'll teach them how to open up their central line of information in the middle of their body. We call that the Koshko, or the navel space in our tradition. And I'll have them come up to the tree. You're asking the tree, may I enter your space? Just wait. Don't listen. Don't try to think it's going to talk to you. Just be a feeling, the slight magnetic feeling that will draw you towards it. Good. Go towards it. Put your hands on the tree. And then it depends on what's going on with that person. If they have a bunch of heavy energy that needs to move, I want you to give it to the tree and let it go down into the roots. Give your hucha. Give that heavy energy to the tree. Let the tree drink it from you. And then there's many different ways you can work with the tree. You can start to take upper world light down from the top and into you. You can take earth energy up into you. You can take both energies and the middle world energy into you. So like there's no rules. And the fun part is this is where you get to use your disciplined imagination. You get to hallucinate and have a good time for a little while. And that's really where the deepest forms of connecting with nature is just allowing yourself to be. You can just sit outside in your yard. I'll put my hands on the ground next to me. I'll just be sitting on the ground, make my spine nice and tall, and I'll put my hands on the ground and I'll just start breathing. And my intention is to begin to cycle energy. And what I like to do, if I'm calling in the earth, I want to communicate with the earth, the first thing I do is I send her hucha. Because for her, that's like a sweet chocolate. I don't want to send her light because she can't really do anything with that. So I send her the hoocha. And if I don't have any, I generate some. I think about something that can piss me off a little bit. And I'll send that energy down. And as I send that energy down, I can draw her energy back. It's beginning. That's really what shamanism is about, is creating a relationship with all the spiritual energy that surrounds you. And how do you create a relationship? Give and take. Give and take. I give it to you, I take from you. It's a loving kind of reciprocity. Just like I was talking about when you start to embody things like gratitude. I can't tell you I know of a more powerful exercise, and that's why I start my day with it. As being a 4th level shaman, a high priest, I connect with spirit and energy at a very kind of beneficial and wondrous kind of way. I can tell you hands down, I can't tell you I know of a better practice than getting in touch with your breath and practicing gratitude. If you did only those 2 things, that would change your life. You'd become unrecognizable in a short period of time of where you think you are now. I'm not saying there isn't other things you should do. You should. But if you're not willing to do anything else, if I can get you to 1, focus on your breathing, and then 2, just be open, just opening yourself to connect to the energy around you, just being still for a little bit. That in itself will just begin to change you in a really big way.
Gratitude.
Huge, right?
Gratitude. Like, as you're saying that, it all makes sense, because you look at, the positive pineapple. When you got that message from the angel, perhaps you can, be positive or look at it positive. That's gratitude. That's a shift in perception. That's being grateful for what you have, for what's there. And it takes nothing. It doesn't, I mean, you could be grateful for, a glass of water, or you can just be grateful for existing, for being alive, right? for being alive. But even in that state of gratitude, it expands. It expands your frequency. Your heart opens. There's something about those words of gratitude that allows your heart to just expand, and you feel, oh, you know what? Yeah. it takes your mind away from any condition. It takes your mind away from the condition. You be like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, life is good. I may not like this certain thing that's happening right here, but I got something I can smile about. Like, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. It changes. Gratitude changes everything. And to your point, I don't know anything else that gives me that shift. You had a moment of satori based off of gratitude. Your whole world, you got a pace of a stage of enlightenment in a terminal moment, and what was perceived as a terminal moment. You come into a state of enlightenment and say, wait a minute, I'm grateful because I'm alive. Like, yeah, I'm alive. And from there, I mean, you've created this space, the positive pineapple, and impacted so many people just from being grateful. And I love how you start your day with it. Starting your day with a sense of gratitude is so powerful. It is so powerful. And breathing into it, because it's not just a mental exercise. There's the physical component of it as well, that your cells are awakened to it. Your cells are awakened to it. Your body is harmonized in that field of, I just good. Like, I'm good. Like, that's powerful. That is powerful. And I thank you for sharing that practice. Those are things where, I'm going to take some of that and start applying it to my life, to my practice. I haven't jumped on the cold shower train yet. That's a goal. I'm working. I'm still in the shower, and I turn the nozzle a little bit.
Gotta start somewhere, And again, on my YouTube channel, I have a cold shower tutorial you could check out. It seems that works a lot for people to be there to watch me take a cold shower right in front of you and kind of chill, because it's mostly about, again, your breathing. If you can slow your breathing down and set your mind to, it's like jumping out of a plane. I'm just doing this. I don't have any reservation. Or I have people picture yourself getting in, and it's just no big deal. You picture yourself actually enjoying it. And so by creating that mindset, it's getting in the way of the other part of your mind. Say, this is going to be bad. I'm not going to be able to handle it. Because the truth is, nothing is actually unbearable except for the thoughts about it. That's right. That's it. Nothing is actually unbearable. Hey, cool question came in. This kind of goes back to something we were talking about earlier. Would you say that humans make mistakes? What would you say, Andre?
I would say they're mistakes. I would say, yeah, there are mistakes, but they all turn back into work for your good. They all work for your good. They all work for your good. I mean,
So
they're
that would make me
misconceptions.
say there are no mistakes.
Exactly. It's just a mistake. A mistake. Like if you're acting the movie, a mistake. That's all.
Is it really? You know? Yeah, it's quite a conundrum there. I find that to be like quite a paradox for a lot of people, is to look at do humans make mistakes? I would say they think they do. That's what
Mm,
I would say. Like, yeah, humans think they do. We judge other things as mistakes. Is it a
mhm.
mistake, or is it what needs to happen? Or is it just a step to get us to where we need to go? So it has a
Mhm.
lot to do with how you choose, because that's the cool
Perceive it.
part. We all have our own choice in how to perceive. So if you want to see mistakes, I'm not saying you're wrong in any sort of way. If that's how it works for you, I would say that that wouldn't be the most empowering way for you to use your mind. I'd say
Right.
the most empowering way to use your mind is to understand, like, yep, because it takes away your judgment, and will also take away your judgment of others. And usually what this does is help reduce in people what I call justifiable resentment, because lots of humans hold on to resentment because they justify it. It's okay that I hate you because it's okay that I'm mad at you because of how I feel. And those are because we're judging this mistake. A mistake, when we say it's a mistake, what we're saying is, I don't agree with reality. It should be some other way than it is. It's a mistake because it shouldn't have happened this way. Says who? Says my judgmental mind. Instead of
Error and
looking,
perception.
it's exactly the way it needs to be. And if it was any other way, then I'm not alive. So there's different ways to kind of look at these things. I don't find much empowerment anymore in finding wrongs. I try not to look at wrongs. It happens. My mind makes judgments. I step back and watch him judge sometimes, and then kind of giggle like, that's all wrong, right, Tony? And he goes, yeah, I know it is. So, but that's kind of the fun part. But that's where I would go as far as mistakes or failure, or I don't really put myself in positions to disagree with creation anymore. And the greater I get at that, it's just a whole lot less resistance I have to everything.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful point. Beautiful point.
Lulu
Because
says, I'm catching the tail end. I believe you are. Thanks, Lulu, for being here. That's way cool, Fayware says. Way cool.
feels good. Feels good.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on or anything before we scale? We're at hour 36. I don't know how long you
Yeah.
want.
I think we nailed it. I think we nailed it, man. I think we nailed it. It was a soulful conversation, and just a place of light where we can connect and build. It's so important, particularly now, to share energy, to amplify the teachings, the messages, what we're learning in this process. Anthony, what you're doing, how you're making such a huge impact with the community, with helping people to heal and to come into remembrance. Anytime this opportunity presents itself to build and to amplify the message is a blessing, is an absolute blessing. So I'm eternally grateful for being on this platform, for having this conversation with you and sharing this space, because I know we impact each other. There's only one of us here, quite frankly.
Yeah, right.
So
I
only
love
one of us
talking
here.
to myself. It's so much fun, you know.
That's
So
exactly
many
it.
amazing personalities and things. It's so much fun.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's
I
exactly it.
want to thank you so much for being here and doing this, Andre. It's been so much fun. I really enjoy your energy and your light, and I want to commend you. I'm so glad you're here in the world and helping others to find their way. And I think that's just one of the most precious and beautiful things we can do for each other on this planet, is work on ourselves and become the greatest version of ourselves, and let that overflow us, pour out of our cup into the world. And I'm just blown away. I'm so excited to continue to meet more people who are on this path and are so expanded and open to share and open up about their wisdom and their past and their story and their practices. And those are all just wonderful, beautiful things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I give thanks for you, my brother. I give thanks for you. And
Hey,
Mary as well.
if you don't mind, would you like to, I'll like lead everybody just in a few breaths, and maybe you have something you'd like to channel, a prayer or something you'd like to share with
Sure.
everybody. Okay,
Absolutely.
that'd be cool
Absolutely.
for you. All
Yeah,
right,
that will.
cool. All right, everybody, if you'd like to join us in this kind of like little ceremony, what I'm going to have you do is I want you to take your left hand and put it on your navel and your right hand and put it on your heart. And I want you just to take a moment. I want you to feel that left hand on your belly. I want you to feel your stomach, the warmth of your hand, the pressure of your hand on your belly. And then bringing your attention up to your heart, your hand on your heart. Feel your heart and see if you can feel your heartbeat. And now you're just becoming aware of your breath in the moment. You're not doing anything with it. You're just aware that you're breathing. Notice where your breath is going. And then you're going to begin to breathe deeper, and you're going to breathe deep into that left hand, into your relaxed left hand, up into your right hand too, and out with a soft sigh. And it's like a wave, left hand, right hand. Use your voice and sigh it out. Belly, chest. Feel your breath like a wave. Feel your breath. Your breath's like a wave in your body. Breathing all the way into your head. And back down into your belly. Belly, chest, head. 3 more. 2 more. Last one. Big, strong breath and hold. Hold. I want you to squeeze your entire body like you're wringing out a sponge. You're squeezing, squeezing, squeeze everything. Your arms, your legs, your feet, your hands, your face, your ears, even beyond your skin. Squeeze. 3, 2, 1. Release. Taking your hands off your body and letting your hands be open, your palms be open. You can hold them up or put them in your lap, but just allowing your hands to be open. And bringing your attention to your hands, you may feel the vibration, the frequency in your fingers and fingernails and your palms. And what I want you to do here is I want you to invite to you your highest power, whatever that is for you. We can call in all beings of light and energies and frequencies of consciousness and divine knowledge. And we can ask them to bring their perfect teachings, wisdom, and medicine here. And as you ask for that, allow your hands just to be open to receive, as if you can sense and feel the energy of the light beings that surround you. Call them to you into your hands and let the energy of your hands expand up through your wrists and your forearms, rising into your elbow joints, into your upper arms and shoulders. And let that energy pour over your collarbones and into your heart. And let this luminous light begin to fill up your entire body. Allow yourself to use your mind's eye and your disciplined imagination to imagine the most beautiful, luminous light, the greatest healing light, the greatest, softest, beautiful light. And allow it to embody you. Allow it to slip into every nook and cranny and crack and crevice, every square millimeter of your body, bringing light into the 30 trillion cells that make the wondrous universe that is you. Allow yourself to just be here with this and feel your breath. Feel your breath fall in. Feel your breath fall out. And just allow yourself to remain in this space of beauty and resonance as Andre shares his word. Andre, your mic's not on.
How grateful.
Yes.
How grateful we are.
Mm-hmm.
How grateful we are for this sacred space. For simply being. For the air that is in our lungs. For the heart that is pulsing in our chest. For the blood that is flowing through our bodies. How grateful we are for our very existence. Our very existence, all in recognition of a presence, of a unified field, of one infinite mind, one love, known by many names, but recognized when we look in the mirror, when we speak to one another, when we see nature, the trees, the sun, the clouds, the mountains, the water, all in recognition of the presence of life that is all loving, all knowing, omniactive, omnipotent. How grateful we are. How grateful we are knowing that we are inseparable from this presence, that we live, we move, and we have our very existence in this presence of life itself. Therefore, we call this time that we spent together perfect, whole, and complete. We call each other perfect, whole, and complete, knowing that the divine essence of our nature, who we have always been before time and space began, is love. Never born in time, never ending in time, simply love. And so we celebrate this. We celebrate our mere existence of love itself. We allow this golden light to wash over us in every aspect of our life. Our physical body, our mental body, our causal body, our subtle bodies, our astral bodies, every body of our affairs is perfect, whole, and complete, radiating in love. We give thanks for the ancestors, the ascended masters, the teachers, the archangels, all those who have agreed to accompany us along this journey as we come into a greater remembrance of who we've always been. We simply say yes. We say yes to a greater understanding of who we are. We say yes to life itself, seeking to experience itself as each and every one of us. We take this powerful word that comes from the presence of life, from our higher self, word that is conscious of itself as being the fulfillment of a desire that we have already come into a realization with. We take this powerful word and release it into the all-loving arms of the eternal. Simply allowing this word to be so. Amen. Amin. Ashe. Shalom. Salam. Aho. Hotep. Alhamdulillah. So it is, and so we are.
Ahaya! Everyone just taking a moment with your hands open, taking in a nice big breath and feeling your breath. Feeling the gratitude for that breath. And say out loud in your space, I am perfect, whole, and complete. Breathe in that truth and say it again. I am perfect, whole, and complete. And say it once more. I am perfect, whole, and complete. Let us now gather our energy. Stick your arms out next to you, big and wide. And as you take in a big breath, gather up all the energy of your space in your bubble and taking a big breath. Bring it up over top of your head, a beautiful luminous ball of light. And as you exhale, run it down through your head and into your body. Down through you and into the earth, allowing yourself to be that central circuit. A Nike Kuyaiki Arpichai Sonkolai. Thank you. I love you. A dove from my heart. Wow, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Andre. What a beautiful gift you have. I'm so happy to be able to feel that from you today. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. And thank you for the wonderful breathing, for the word, the powerful remembrance. Thank you. Love you and I appreciate you.
I love you so much. Thank you. I look forward to us doing this again real soon.
Indeed, my brother. Just one of many. One of many. Blessings to you.
Blessings to you all. Thank you all so much for being with us here today. Feel free to reach out to either one of us. We'd love to hear from you. Have a beautiful day.
Ashe.
Bye-bye.